President Barrow reacts to growing criticism against his administration during his meeting with the elders of Banjul. Palestinians' health authorities have called for urgent intervention from the international community amidst rains of bombs in Gaza. And South Africa's debt rate increases thanks to the impact of the global health crisis. Well, these and more coming your way in this week. It is 2000 hours from our studios in Banjul. This is Africa TV. Many thanks for joining us, and now the news in detail. Now, President Adama Barrow has, during his meeting with the Banjul elders, responded to popular criticism against his government. He chose to direct his energy towards what he called the need to embrace peace for prosperity of the Gambia. Now, about whether or not is the time for him to step down, Mr. Barrow noted that he was chosen by the people to lead, and he will retire when the appointed time is due. Omar Ahmad Toure tells us more of that in this report.
President Adama Barrow acknowledges receipt of derogatory comments directed at his administration via media, a situation he says does not even suit the speakers. While he calls on people to uphold principles, either speaking the truth or remaining silent, Mr. Barrow echoes the need to cherish peace and prosperity. He has this to say to his fellow politicians.
I had one politician recently who held a press conference saying, "We are bandits and we should be removed from government." Those are bad statements. If you are in a leadership position, there are certain things you should not say. We are all natives of this country and we all know one another, so it is not necessary for us to say such to one another. If we are bandits and criminals, people would not have selected us to lead the country.
President Barrow tells political leaders to preach peace and allow Gambians to select leaders who would represent them.
If you want to be president, it is Gambians that will make you president. So certain statements are not fit for leaders. Let's preach peace only. You often listen to my political statements, and I always preach peace in my statements. Gambians select leaders, and they select whom they want. But if Allah selects anyone, that person becomes the leader. And I believe I have been selected by Allah. I believe too my presidency will come to an end. Allah that selected me is the one who will end my leadership.
Earlier this month, Standard newspaper quoted President Barrow as saying that he prefers death to shame in the coming presidential election, although his party members argue that the proverb he used in his native tongue was mistranslated into the English language. As Gambia gears up for presidential election, concerns over the rate of crimes are rising, as there is hardly a week of silence from cases of alleged murder and related criminal activities. Opposition groups have always blamed the Barrow administration for negligence on the issue of national security. Reporting for iAfrica TV, this is Omar Ahmad Toure.
President Barrow there meeting the, of course, elders of Banjul in observance of the Eid al-Fitr celebrations in the Gambia, which is a tradition, by the way. Now, into some of the news. The spokesman of Gaza Strip Health Department has on Friday called for immediate action from the international community to stop Israel attacks on civilian population. The bombings have caused many casualties in the region on the fifth day of conflict between Palestine and Israel. Dozens of homes and towers has been reduced to rubble. Details of that in this report by Sahna Tunkar.
Heavy fumes of airstrikes shadowed Gaza Strip after Israel bomb attackers flattened buildings and properties of the Palestinians. The ongoing conflict between the two sides has brought huge disasters to the people in Gaza Strip, bringing sufferings to both young and old alike.
I happened to be at home when the air raid took place, and I did not know that a lot of bombs were falling from the sky. It was so sudden. Now this whole area has been completely blown up. The Israeli army dropped as many as 7 bombs when we left. Since May 9th, Palestinian militants in Gaza have been firing rockets into Israel, which has retaliated with airstrikes.
Israel warplanes on Tuesday struck a building with several rockets, destroying the 13th floor Hamadi Tower, which is one of Gaza's tallest buildings. This resulted to the homelessness of dozens of Palestinian families who were residing in the building in the wake of the strike. Ashraf Al-Qidra, spokesperson of the local health department of the Gaza Strip, called for help from the international community to stop Israeli offensive.
We call on the international community to take immediate action to stop the Israeli army airstrikes and blocks on the Gaza Strip, thereby alleviating the suffering of local people and providing emergency assistance to local healthcare institutions.
In the latest development, the attacks have also brought losses to local press agencies and reporters after a building housing them was brought down by the Israeli bombs.
We knew that airstrikes will result in huge losses and damage to residents and civilian facilities, but we did not expect our office to be a target of the attack. But when the office was attacked, some of my colleagues were injured and the office was blown up. We did not expect that reporters would also be targets of the attack.
Palestinian resistance groups in Gaza claim responsibility of more than 250 rockets that were fired from Gaza towards Israel during the day, announcing that they will continue as long as Israel keeps striking the Gaza Strip. Since the outbreak of the recent hostilities, at least 140 Palestinians, including 39 children, have been killed in the Gaza Strip, while 13 have died amid unrest in the West Bank, with 9 killed in Israel. For African News, Sohna Tunkara.
The ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine have left 100 people dead and many more injured. Now, senior registration officers of the Independent Electoral Commission on Friday began a 3-day training on voter registration ahead of the December 2021 presidential elections. The training is geared towards preparing the senior officers with knowledge and skill needed to conduct of voter registration effectively. The sister reports.
Elections are often regarded as a complex process that requires the participation of key players who perform different activities and functions. The conduct of general voter registration is among the key activities on schedule for the making of a presidential choice for the country in about 7 months' time. Speaking at the opening of the 3-day training sessions, the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Ali Muhammad Njai, said the importance of the exercise could not be emphasized, calling on all eligible voters to book their voting tickets.
I would like to take this opportunity to call on all eligible Gambians to turn out to register during this period. This would enable them to participate in the various elections, which is a civil duty for all citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, as senior registration officers, you have a huge task ahead. It will be your responsibility to ensure the success of the registration in your assigned areas or constituencies. I have no doubt that the highly committed team of trainers from the IEC and SI would provide you with the necessary training you require.
The Director of Training, Communication and Public Affairs at the IEC, Pama Kankan, explained the process in which the training will be carried out.
The trainers, I hope they would do well, because we have a very good team of trainers. Because training will be done actually in 2 folds. First will be done by the IEC facilitators, who would train on the laws, on the procedures of voter registration. And then there will be another training done by the ESI officials. This is the company which is recruited to conduct the voter registration. So those teams would also be training the trainees on how to use their equipments, their gadgets. These are the machines they would use to register people, the laptops, the printers, and all those gadgets. So we hope from this group of trainers that they will be able to deliver on the goals, so that they train the trainees very well, so that when they go out in the field, they can perform as expected.
The training exercise will be done in 2 phases. The first part includes the use of the IEC voter registration processes and procedures, while the second segment focuses on the practical process of voter registration.
The 2021 voter registration is to be held from the 29th of May to 11 July 2021. The Commission will engage 220 registration teams, which will be deployed to 370 registration centers across the country. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
Right. This is a reporting there as IEC, of course, officers are trained on the, of course, voter registration procedures ahead of the December 2021 presidential elections in the Gambia. Now, due to the growing demand in the global line, avocado farming has continued to gain momentum in Nigeria. Local farmers, mainly women, are encouraged to venture into avocado production thanks to the current high earnings the sector is making for them. Now, some analysts believe that the new ventures have the potential to create job opportunity for more people in the West African state. And here's more details of that in this report.
It's another good season for avocado farmer Hudong Giang. The 65-year-old has been harvesting her avocados, which are ripe for consumption. She planted them over 20 years ago, and that's been a major source of income for Hudong and her family. She sells an average 18 bags per harvest and makes about $1,500 from the crop.
I harvest these trees twice a year. It does not cost anything to plant an avocado tree. We sell it here in our local market, then outsiders come and buy the produce. The avocados have been so helpful to me over the years. I use the money I earn from the harvest to buy fertilizer from my farm, pay my children's school fees, medical care, foodstuff, and other financial needs.
From the farm to the local market, the cost of the green gold has nearly doubled. Wholesalers like Kanyang Zanyango saw the potential in the commodity early enough and took advantage of it. Now she sells to retailers and also exports the produce.
The market is thriving because we have retailers who buy from us to resell, while we also export the same. This business helps all women here in a lot of ways. Some women come here with no money to start the business, but just by hanging around and helping other women carry their sacks of avocados, they're able to go back home at the end of the day with some reasonable number of the avocados to resell in their neighborhoods.
Earnings from avocados is fast gaining traction and boosting export revenues across Africa. Despite being listed as one of the industrial crops in Nigeria's agricultural sector, the West African nation is yet to fully harness the potential in avocado trade.
This avocado industry has the potential to earn Nigerian 80 billion naira in export earnings. Now, this avocado industry can provide 10,000 jobs, indirect and direct jobs for Nigerian youths. But because this fruit is not being looked into as a viable crops, all of these economic viabilities is being, underdeveloped. Presently, it doesn't have any significant contribution to the agricultural GDP because it is still at the subsistence level.
Avocados, together with their byproducts, are well sought after by the pharmaceutical and cosmetics industries. But there's a problem of storage, which oftentimes lead to waste. Nigeria could earn so much more from ramping up production of the green gold and establishing a formidable value chain, one that would go beyond consumption to producing extracts for industrial use.
This is Africa TV, and you're watching this week's news edition. Of course, there is more news coming ahead, but for now, we'll take a break and come back shortly with the remainder of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Following the announcement by the Independent Electoral Commission, the IEC, of the dates for the general voter registration scheduled from the 29th of May to 11th July 2021, the National Council for Civic Education, NCCE, reminds the public that voter registration is an integral part of the electoral process, as it is key to franchise as stated in Section 39 of the Constitution, and hence a civic right and a duty for all eligible Gambians. The NCCE therefore encourages every eligible citizen to fully participate in this crucial national exercise, as it is the basis for any credible and participatory election. The National Council for Civic Education informs the public that to register and acquire a voter's card in the upcoming general voter registration exercise, one has to prove your Gambian citizenship by producing one of the following documents as stated in Section 12 of the Elections Act: birth certificate, ID card, passport, or alcalo or district chief attestation. As the Gambia prepares for this very important national exercise, the National Council for Civic Education reminds the public to stay away from any altercation and refrain from the use of abusive language, provocative actions, intimidations, thugs, and physical confrontation at all times, as these contravene the laws of the Gambia. The public is encouraged to follow due process to seek redress when the need arises during the period to ensure that peace and stability prevail throughout the process. Voter's card is your key to franchise. Register to vote and vote wisely. This message is brought to you by the National Council for Civic Education, NCCE, with support from the United Nations Development Programme.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put in to constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. This is Africa TV, and once again, many thanks for joining us. Now, Albir Association, a charitable Islamic group, has reacted to the recent incident involving women in discourse to the hijab to steal from the Serekunda market. The Secretary General of the organization calls on all Muslim women to stick on their religious prescription in wearing the veil despite the provocation. Here's more details of that in this report by Ndesise.
The wearing of hijab is one of the most common identities of female Muslims in the Gambia, and it cuts across the population, especially during the month of Ramadan. Despite its religious significance, the dress code is being used in certain instances by criminals in disguise of good Muslims to commit crimes such as theft. It is from this angle that concerned Muslims in the name of Albir held a press conference to sanitize public misconception on the Islamic dress code and warn against any attempt aimed at stigmatizing women in the hijab. One of the Islamic scholars at the conference, Sheikh Hamad Jaite, gave some of the context to the theme of discussion.
This meeting is very important as it will help in clarifying that people have been fighting Islam since the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Islam is a complete system of devotion, life, and living. It is a complete system of social interaction. The deen that is already completed, and anyone who wants to give their own perception about Islam, you will always be a cursed person. And if Allah curses you, you will not hear the truth, you will not say the truth, and you will not see the truth.
Imam Al-Hassan Cham assured that albeit no other than the peaceful approach to counter the enemy of Islam, and to stand in solidarity with women behind the veil for the sake of Allah.
We won't fight anyone. We are here for peace. We are calling on all hijabis to stick to their deen. No one can stop them. We are saying this to everyone across the country. We will make all efforts to make sure that every Muslim in the Gambia wears hijab.
Says Secretary General of Albir Association. Aminata Jaite advised women in hijab who are facing discrimination in the society to be strong and seek more knowledge on how to keep on their dutifulness to Allah.
Because for me, empowerment starts with education. If you are not educated in your deen, you will be harassed, you will be humiliated, you will be embarrassed. So as young ladies, this is the beginning for you. And I want to assure you that if you are equipped with the right knowledge, the right skills, and the right attitudes, nobody will ever harass you. And I just want to make it very simple, that this is where you start from. Ensure that you are enlightened about your deen. Know everything that you should know about your deen. No man would ever harass you, not in any respect. Make sure that when you go out, you are with the right character and the right attitude. Nobody would look at you and say, hey, I want to talk to you. They dare not. Even if you are younger and you respect yourself, you have the right attitude in public, nobody will ever approach you. Talk less of harassment.
Established in 2008, Albir Association is a charitable Islamic group which is set to raise awareness and help in the development of the Muslim Ummah in terms of community development and knowledge about Islam. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Desise.
And from the report by Desise, next to South Africa we go. Now, South African authorities are struggling to revive the country's economy amid the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, which puts its debt rate in a bleak situation. Some economic experts attributed the country's growing level of debt to the cost of interest, which is higher than the economic growth. Now, considering the uncertainty, others believe there is a need to involve the private sector while the government revisits its policies. And here's more of that in this report.
The country's debt for 2020-2021 is around 3.6 trillion rand, and for the current year it's about 4.2 trillion rand, and climbing to 5.3 trillion rand in 2023-24.
So it continues to rise, largely because our interest costs that we pay is higher than our economic growth, which means we don't generate enough tax revenues to pay for the debt service costs. Hence, it continues to accumulate.
Analysts suggest that the government doesn't have a plan to grow the economy.
If you look at the recovery of the economy, there's nothing new that's coming into the economy from their side over the next couple of years. So actually, unless they spend quite differently from what they have in the past, it would have no positive impact on the economy going forward.
There's been a fair amount of debate on how government can cut its costs to better service its debt levels. Cutting staff in health, policing and education appear to be the first place that government will look.
Which means at the service level delivery point, citizens will encounter fewer service from the government, but also reduced quality because few people cannot provide the same level of quality.
Economists say that the focus for investment should be shifted to the private sector.
Can't rely on government to get the South African economy going again. It's just about making sure that the money is spent on the right areas. If you look at private sector investment, that is where our focus should be, and that is where I think new economic growth would come from. Of course, they need to fix a few things, Eskom being number one.
The state-owned entities and government guarantees have been a drain on the country's budget. That needs to change, as does economic policy.
That's the more durable way to deal with debt, but it requires the economic reforms that are going to lift investment and economic growth.
For sustainable economic growth to happen, it's important that the government gets its debt levels under control. Otherwise, the country is going to be stuck in that quagmire.
All right, South Africa debt rate continued to rise amidst the impact or the adverse effect of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Well, viewers, that's all for now. And of course, but for more details on this and other website on africa.tv. But for now, though, many thanks for the privilege of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a very pleasant night. Bye for now.